Often cited as the greatest rock band of all time, the Beatles were four lads from Liverpool who shook the world between 1960 and 1970. The Fab Four rose to fame in the early 60s, topping the charts a record number of times, and in the process, they changed the face of modern music forever. However, they did not do it alone, and a large number of acolytes and affiliates played a part in the band's success, resulting in many different people being hailed as the Fifth Beatle. To celebrate the re-release of the documentary film Let It Be, we take a look at a list of candidates who have all been cited as the legendary Fifth Beatle throughout the years. Before we commence with our selections, please be sure to subscribe to our channel and share this video with your Beatle-loving friends. And so, without further ado, here are some of the people who have been hailed as the mythical Fifth Beatle. Number 1. Stuart Sutcliffe. A friend of John Lennon's from his art college days, Stuart Sutcliffe was a talented painter and the original bass player in the Beatles. A part of the band during their Hamburg days, Sutcliffe's tenure represents a time when the Beatles were a five-piece band, cementing his occasional title as the Fifth Beatle. Deciding to quit the band to pursue his career as an artist, Sutcliffe tragically died from a brain hemorrhage when he was only 21 years old, never getting to see the amazing success that his former bandmates would go on to. His story was explored in the 1994 film Backbeat, starring Stephen Dorff as Sutcliffe, Ian Hart as John Lennon, and Twin Peaks star Cheryl Lee as Sutcliffe's German girlfriend Astrid Kircher, who photographed the band in their early days and was responsible for styling their hair into the famous mop tops. Number 2. Brian Epstein. The Beatles' manager was an integral part of their success and is said to have transformed them from a shabby, leather-clad band of wild ruffians into a suited and booted presentable success story. Always at their side in their glory days and guiding the lads from strength to strength, Brian Epstein was the group's mentor and business mogul, often leading him to be known as the Fifth Beatle. Epstein died suddenly in 1967 from an overdose at the age of 32. This left the Beatles without their guiding force, and some argue marked the beginning of the end for the band and their unparalleled success. Number 3. Jimmy Nicol. We all know Ringo Starr replaced Pete Best as the drummer in the Beatles, but fewer people know that Ringo himself was replaced, albeit briefly, by a stand-in drummer called Jimmy Nicol. Due to a bad case of tonsillitis and the resulting operation to remove them, Ringo missed 10 dates on their 1964 world tour and was replaced by a professional session drummer. After playing with the band for just less than 2 weeks, Jimmy Nicol's star faded as quickly as it had risen, when Ringo made his triumphant return to the Beatles in Melbourne, Australia. Despite his short stint with the Fab Three, Nicol is sometimes called the Fifth Beatle for his time served playing with the group. Number 4. George Martin. The Beatles' longtime producer and musical collaborator George Martin is widely recognised as an integral part of the Beatles' story. Responsible for honing their skills and encouraging their songwriting prowess, Martin was an essential part of the Beatles' musical success and subsequent respect as 20th century composers. Classically trained with a talent for orchestrating, George Martin's contribution has often seen him referred to as the Fifth Beatle. It would be hard to imagine the band having the unequalled success that they experienced without Martin's tutelage and encouragement in the recording studio, making him one of the strongest candidates for the honorary title of Fifth Beatle. Number 5. Billy Preston. Bringing us back round to the Let It Be sessions, American musician Billy Preston was drafted in to add his incredible keyboard skills to the album and also acted as a great pacifier in the studio, where tensions had become fraught between the Fab Four during earlier sessions at Twickenham Studios. Preston added a new dimension to the band and ensured their individual egos were kept in check from fear of appearing vainglorious in front of the respected guest. Years later, John Lennon stated that he and George Harrison would have officially absorbed Preston into the group as his presence and contributions elevated the band, adding a much-needed shot in the arm after years of familiarity had set in amongst the Fab Four. Had the Beatles stayed together throughout the 70s and included Billy Preston in the lineup, he would have officially become the Fifth Beatle. Well, that concludes our main list of Fifth Beatles, but before we go, here's a brief list of honorary mentions. Mal Evans. The Beatles' loyal road manager, who was always on hand to carry an amp or take down some impromptu lyrics, Evans also provides sound effects on Maxwell's Silver Hammer and was a key member of the Beatles' entourage. Eric Clapton was one of the first famous people outside of the group to play on a Beatles track, providing some fabtastic guitar on the track While My Guitar Gently Weeps. He was also considered as a replacement for George Harrison when the lead guitarist briefly left the group during the Let It Be sessions. Maharishi Mahesh Yogi is also considered as an honorary, if somewhat obscure, Fifth Beatle due to his association and influence on the band during their White Album period. And who could forget to mention Yoko Ono? Such was the artist's influence on John Lennon, the two were never to be seen apart after they shacked up together in the late 60s. From that point on, she would always be present in the studio and even contributed some vocals to some of the Lennon tracks released on the Beatles' White Album. For her part in the rich tapestry of the band, she is sometimes known as the Fifth Beatle. So there we have it, our overview of the legendary title of Fifth Beatle. Who did we miss out? Which one of our selections most deserves the title? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. If you ask me, the one and only Fifth Beatle appears on the Abbey Road album cover. As always, thanks very much for watching, we really appreciate it. The best way to support us is by liking and sharing the video and subscribing to the channel. If you're feeling thrifty, then you can leave us a donation at buymeacoffee.com or you can become a patron over on patreon.com. This video is also sponsored by funkytshirts.co.uk, so check out their website for a whole range of cool and funky t-shirt designs. All the links are in the description. Until next time, remember, to be the greatest rock and roll band ever, all you need is love and to give peace a chance.